I'm with Arnold Mabere, who is a CISO advisor and a consultant. Arnold, thanks for being here this morning.
Pleasure.
In security at the moment, what does good look like?
Security is one of those functions whereby when it's working really well, it should not be obtrusive. So good security is almost churning away in the background, but also when I think it's really working well, it's when a security function is seen as a business support, almost like being a trusted advisor where the business can articulate where it's going and get security to be supportive of that business mission or vision. Yeah.
And for smaller companies, it can obviously be hard to keep up with the budgets and objectives that a larger company has. Have you seen any ways in which smaller companies can achieve that?
Absolutely. There are a number of ways that companies of all sizes need to work. Security has become a very professionalized area where we've got a number of international standards that companies can lean on and rely upon for delivering good security, but also investing in the people that actually execute and deliver security on a day-to-day basis. Good security is also about being supportive to the business in ways which make it so that when security is working well, the business will be able to even expand and grow because it has got the ability to focus on what needs to be done for the business and rely on the technology to just be there to support the business. And when the technology is complex and changing all the time, you don't expect the business line to actually understand some of those nuances. They must have someone they can rely upon. And for smaller companies, it's a bit difficult to actually engage people full-time who will be there all the time to do the security function. So sometimes relying on third parties, bringing in specialists, like engaging a virtual CISO type function, that can help smaller to medium-sized organizations.
That's something we hear about quite often, that talking to the business about the technology can be a challenge, actually getting them to understand or be interested. Do you have any tips for people out there that are trying to get their business or their board engaged in security?
Absolutely. The point about security is that when it's working well and being supportive of the business, it opens up so many doors. Some functions which we didn't visualize and imagine as being possible are actually part of everyday business now, like internet banking, like e-commerce. They all rely on good security infrastructures. They rely on well managed security. And so security can actually create new business opportunities. And when the security function works hand in hand with the business and is very clear that it's there to support the business to meet its objectives, then that actually to me is when security really hits the mark. Yeah.
I think you're right that security really needs to support the business. Have you seen any examples, or do you predict a future where security could even be a function that opens new business areas or even generates its own revenue?
There are a number of areas where security is really growing and I can see it expanding. Some of the talking areas that I see growing for security are areas like blockchain, which has been in a lot of people's lexicon recently, partly because of Bitcoin and other similar virtual currencies. Because this is a technology which uses the fundamentals of security in terms of knowing who you are communicating with and also being able to say who has actually engaged in that communication, knowing who you're talking to, what they're able to access, and being able to keep a record of all that. And blockchain is one of those technologies. And similarly, we've got virtual reality, we've got 3D printing. They all have security aspects and elements to them, which I think over the next few years will be quite key.
Now, we hear a lot about the risks and the evolving threats in cyber. What do you see as keeping up CISOs at night? What are they really worried about?
Every now and again, you hear of cases where a whole business actually ceases to exist because of a security exposure. And by and large, many CISOs are looking at what is important to the business, what is valued by the business, because previously a business used to be about physical assets, whereas now it's very much the information that the business has. And sometimes that information is effectively what I refer to as the crown jewels of a business. This is what actually is the value of the business. It's in the information, and the information can be very easily taken out of the business. And this can happen without someone actually having any visual cues as to what is happening or any indicators that there's been a compromise. So most CISOs or security professionals are worried about how well protected their company's crown jewels are. And part of that protection is about identifying where they have their intellectual property, where they have the information that actually makes the business, or the information that is the business. Because now my position is that the business is very much about its information, its data. That is the value of the business.
And if there's one thing as an advisor to CISOs or as a CISO yourself that you could get the business to understand, what would that be?
One of the things I can say is that security can only be as good as the investment that's put in. In organizations where security works really well, security is not just the business of IT, it's also something which concerns all the other parts of the business. The PR people, the legal, the finance, they all understand they have a role to play. Regular users have a role to play in day-to-day use of technology, and also in identifying anything that's out of the regular. When they see something unusual, it's important to have those conversations and have those communication channels open between the technical and the business side, so that whenever there's an issue, the business can also help security. And it's not just a one-way street whereby security is seen as limiting the business or inconveniencing the business, but security is seen as supporting the business and being able to actually give assurance that things can work as well as possible.
Brilliant. And if you're looking at the year ahead, what trends do you think we'll see in security?
Apart from the technologies that I mentioned, being 3D printing, blockchain, and to a lesser extent virtual reality, I also see a deeper use of artificial intelligence as well as analytics. So in those areas, we're seeing a lot of products being brought to market, as well as, I suppose, a change in some of the approaches, which is a reflection of how there's a wider use of artificial intelligence and also automation of some of the tasks, especially with security. Some of the work involved is quite onerous, and to reduce the number of people that you need to do this work, you automate some of the tasks, and artificial intelligence and use of big data are the two areas which I think will be growing consistently over the next 12 to 18 months.
I think you're right on that. And I think that's a really good message as well, that security is a business problem. It's something for everybody. Well, thank you very much for talking with us this morning. I think that's been really valuable, and I've really enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you.
Thanks.